Okay, so good evening, Mr. Al Pollock. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, sir. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, and we'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to stop by the Adams Brothers podcast and talk with us this evening.
Thank you for having me on. It's an honor.
Thank you very much. So we know you're very busy, so we'll just go ahead and jump right on in. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your education and your law enforcement career.
Absolutely. For those who may have just joined in the last few seconds, my name is Alvin Pollock. I graduated from Miami-Jackson High School. I grew up in Miami, in the Liberty City area. Upon graduation from high school, I entered the military, United States Marine Corps. I was honorably discharged. Once I left the military, I went to Barry University, graduated from Barry University with a bachelor's degree in public administration. I entered law enforcement. Upon graduating from the police academy, I started serving with the Broward Sheriff's Office in 1977. Moved to Broward County in roughly around 1977, during the same period of time. I moved to Broward County.
Okay. Thank you for introducing yourself. And I'll just go ahead on into my first question. Being that you are a Black law enforcement officer and you've been with BSO for a while, do you believe that there is systemic racism within BSO?
I can say to that question, yes. And the reason why I say that question is I started with BSO in 1977, and it was rough. I'm going to say that. Coming from where I grew up with, just to the south, the county to the south, Miami-Dade County, we experienced it as kids growing up, getting stopped, pulled over. We considered it at the time harassment. And then joining the force, when I joined BSO in 1977, it wasn't that many blacks on the force. The first black I saw was a young man by the name of Remus Jenkins, who was later identified to me as Remus Jenkins. He retired. I saw a black deputy driving on Sterling Road up roughly. I'll never forget it because, when you see things like that, it have an impact on you because you just don't see it. So the first time I ever saw a black sheriff deputy was a gentleman later identified to me as Remus Jenkins, and he was on patrol. And then I soon afterwards joined the force. I got a chance to meet him. And BSO always had what we consider during those era was the one rule. And what I mean by the one rule is one black in and one black out. You had to wait till somebody either retire or die out during that particular time period for you to get a position. We didn't have any blacks and during my career at times in homicide. We didn't have any blacks on the SWAT team. And a lot of the, what we call specialty units or specialized units, we just didn't exist. We didn't represent, I felt as though during that era that we didn't represent the community in which we serve because we were considered Broward Sheriff deputies, meaning that we was responsible for the entire county, but we didn't represent the county, the makeup of the minorities in the county, during the era from the 70s up to the 90s, and it was rough. I mean, I've experienced things in my career, I'm not ashamed of it, where officers will use the N-word and then they'll say, well, we're not talking about you. Well, right. When you walk up on something like that, or you're in a situation like that, and they say, well, we're not talking about you. What are you talking about? So I've had my share of it, and I've gotten my share from residents. I never forget calls that I responded to in Pompano Beach. I would go knock on the door, and people would say they don't want an in deputy coming to their house. I mean, so I experienced it. I was in all white bars where I was supposed to be because of operations, and they would call me the N-word. I'll never forget working a concert in the 70s, early 80s out west. It was one of those bluegrass concerts. I'll never work it again. And I was called the N-word so many times, you thought that was your name. That's a joke, but, I'm just saying, but I've gotten called that many times, throughout my career. I mean, but what bothered me was you go knock on a door. Someone called the police for services, and you knock on the door, and they said that they don't want you coming to their house. They don't want no in deputy coming to their house. So I would go back out, get on the radio at that time, let the sergeant know what I had, and he said, we're not going to send anybody then. That was it. But those are the challenges that I had, throughout my career. I've had challenges where I worked on some special forces, special teams where we was doing surveillance, dark at night. I'm a passenger in the car. My partner is a white male driver, and another officers would pull up next to us from another city. They make racial remarks. These ends ain't gonna do nothing tonight, because of their hairstyle and all that. Because they never saw me though, because I'm like slumped down in the seat, so like in the passenger seat, and you raise up and go, really? Just get me out of here, man. But those are things that, that I dealt with throughout my career.
And one other, when you heard those other officers use the N-word, did you ever pull them to the side and say, hey, don't ever do that again, or I'll report you? Or did you just kind of just let it just kind of blow over?
During that time period, I let it blow over because I had no recourse. I wouldn't have a job, and I wouldn't be having this conversation with you today because there was no recourse for you. There was no unions, there was no nothing. You worked at the whim of the sheriff. And the first thing came to my mind, they would say that, oh, well, you're too sensitive, all that kind of crazy stuff. I'll never forget going into Lauderdale Lakes squad room one day, turning in my paperwork at the end of the shift. And the sergeant said, my wife told me to bring a spade home. Everybody thought it was a joke. What do you say to that? I mean, what do you do? Who am I going to complain to? There's nobody that looked like me and you. So, and even if I did complain, what are they going to do? They're going to come after me, and you couldn't do anything right during that time period. Now you can get things done, but back then you had no recourse other than quit and find yourself another job, and you get blackballed where you never work again, someplace, because you worked at the whim. If you wanted the job, you had to put up with it until you got in a position where you can make the changes. So I lived those kinds of things throughout my career,
Thank you for answering that.
Oh,
Wayne?
it was rough, but I hung in there, and I'm proud that I hung in there because, you can make a lot of difference, to the younger people that are coming on. And what I try and tell them, you have to know the history so you know where you're going, and you can't forget about it because you just have some people that no matter what you do, they just ain't gonna like you.
Yeah.
And some people join the force for all the wrong reasons, so we have a lot of that. I mean, it's not as openly that I see now as it is today. People may do it, but they do it behind your back or something. I mean, today it'll be a different outcome, 10 years ago, if somebody said that, I would have said something, it was a different outcome. But when you're talking about the 70s and early 80s, it was rough.
Well, thank you for sharing that experience with us. Go ahead, Wayne.
How you doing, Mr. Pollock?
Fine, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. What do you think is the most important skill of being a good sheriff?
I think one of the things is that you got to be diverse, and I think in order to get the right person that you want to be a law enforcement officer today, we have to do a better job in our pre-selection process. And what I mean by that is pre-selection. We need to start having people from our community sit in on some of these boards that we have. I don't have a problem with that. I think we need to have psychologists in there. I think that questions need to change from what did you do in high school, and some of the questions that are still around BSO have for the past 20 years. You know, we got to change them to community-based type solution problems, you know, where I want to know, have this person ever been with someone outside of their race? How did they interact with that person? When did they first meet another person of another race or sex? You know, how did they respond? You know, we can tell the questions in a number of ways, but we need to start doing it a little bit different to more or less community. I want to know that this person liked to hunt. Okay. How long you been hunting? What did you like to kill? I mean, these are things that you can get to learn about a person in the interview process. So, and those are just some of the things. You got to have a diverse person that, let me say this, there's bias in, you know, in all of us. Everybody's going to have some type of a bias. So that's just a given. But when you come to work in this type of a environment as a law enforcement officer and you have the right to take a person's life or their liberty, you got to leave all that behind. You gotta judge a person based on the law, based on the probable cause. And that's all it is probable cause. Doesn't mean that you're guilty or not guilty. It just gives you the right at that time to detain a person, but the person still has a right to go through the legal system. You know, that's what make things great. But and you can't be personal. This is not a job where you bring your personal feelings, your personal views and all that into it. It strictly should be based on the law that we have in front of us, you know, to enforce, you know, the statutes. You know, that's what I believe in. I also believe in we have to be diversity. When you have a diverse law enforcement and I'm not saying segregation. I don't believe in that where blacks can only work in black communities, white and white. I'm not saying that. You got to be diverse, but you got to also find the right people. Again, everybody don't have that same passion for certain different groups, whether it be Chinese, Asian, blacks, whites, you know, Hispanics. So you got to find the right person that have that passion, you know, to work in that environment. Same thing with the school resource officer. Just because you're a police officer doesn't mean that you can be a school resource officer. Everybody can't deal with kids. Kids are going to be kids in school. And it's one thing that every kid can really tell you, whether they're 30 years old or they're 40 years old, sir, they remember their SRO. They can name their SRO and some of the good teachers that had an impact on their life because of the way they was treated. I believe that a law enforcement officer, once he joined the force, we should keep them in a zone. They should not be based on the number of arrests they make or the number of traffic tickets and all that stuff, you know, based on statistics. We need to get rid of that. We need to base it on doing your job. If I'm working in a zone and there's no burglaries and robberies, then I've done my job because I protected the people. In this day and age and climate, a lot of things is based on how many tickets you write, how many people you arrest to get to the next level. That's how they judge a lot of, you know, the first line guys, if they want to become supervisors or they want to go up the corporate ladder. We got to base it on more than that. You know? Right. And that's what I don't like about it. And throughout my career, I've seen a lot of things that I would never, ever do if I was the sheriff. Anytime that there was some news media group that want to ride with a sheriff deputies or something, where did they go to? They went to the minority community.
Right.
All you saw. You can't do that, okay? The minority communities are not the only communities that are problem communities, okay? There's a lot than just law enforcement that have problems. There's an economic problem in those communities as well. You know, there's an education component in there as well, where people just don't have. I truly believe if they can do better, they will do better. You know, if it was there. But see, when you got people that don't work, it's not because they don't want to work. There's no jobs. They can't find, you know, what they need. All of that have an impact on law enforcement. It really do, okay? Mental health have an impact on law enforcement. When people are out of work, things happen, okay? Like I try and tell people, and I don't mean to get off on this a little bit, the guys that you see that go to work every day and work hard, man, I know these guys. They do construction work and they do whatever they do. When they get off from work, they're gonna stop by the local grocery store. They're gonna hang out for a few minutes and talk with their friends. These are grown adults. They're gonna talk with their friends, tell war stories, have a beer, and go home. They're not bothering anybody. Leave those people alone. They're not gonna get dressed and go to A1A and sit down at no bar and do that. That's not what they're going to do. They do it on the weekend, but they're not gonna do it on a Monday or Tuesday night and a Wednesday night. Those are people you need to leave alone and have a dialogue with, because they can help you in life. See? Okay, they're not bothering anybody. The store owner is not complaining. The community around that area is not complaining. So why are we messing with them? Leave them alone, get to know them. And that's what I used to do to the guys. I used to have those conversations. I say, guys, do me a favor. If I got a complaint, this is what I need you to do. I don't care what you drink, or if you drink, just pour it in a cup and not in a can, and drink it out of a bag. And if you fall down, call me. I'll come and pick you up. Okay? It's the way you do things, okay? Or do me a favor. You know, where do you live? You know, right across the street? Just go sit up in the yard. Y'all can party until the sunset the next day. If you pass out, call me. I still got to come and help you. That's my job. But it's the way you talk to people, because a lot of people don't know the laws. Okay, I could come up from Miami or from Boca, come to Deerfield, and I don't know that there's a county ordinance about drinking in an open container. Talk to people and tell them. Don't just arrest them for that. That's petty to me. Okay, that's a crime that you don't have to arrest a person for. You can talk to them, especially adults, and they will understand. But it's how we come across to them. It's how we communicate. The biggest problem with law enforcement is we have to be able to communicate and de-escalate things. There's no rush. We don't have to rush and judge everything within a matter of 30 seconds. This is not an active shooter where something like that is taking place. You're talking about a time frame that you can spend a few minutes talking to the person and explain to them, and then they'll understand. A lot of things people don't know. They don't know. I'm just being honest. People sell them tint windows. They don't know maybe that the tint is too dark. Just tell them, hey, listen, your tint is too dark. I'm not gonna write you a ticket, which I could, but I'm not. Take it back, get it corrected. That's all. They're not going anywhere. They live in that community. You're gonna see them every day of the week. That's all, but give them an opportunity. You got a guy who does yard work, and you see he got bald tires. Why are you writing him a ticket for bald tires when the man is barely making, he's doing yard work? I'd rather tell him to take the money that he's gonna give to the state to go get some tires. That's what I used to do. And that's what I try to encourage other young officers that are coming on the force. Now, you gotta have a human side about yourself. See, you gotta understand, I grew up in that type of environment. So I understand the struggles. Everybody can't afford it. Don't get me wrong. I can put bad guys in jail. They deserve to go, the robbers, the murderers, the rapists. Everybody wants that. But I'm talking about the petty stuff, the misdemeanor stuff. There are people in jail today because they can't afford $25 or $50. They don't deserve to be in jail because they lose everything. They lose their jobs. Okay? I've heard guys say, hey, man, you know, what can I do? Listen, I can't tell you what to tell your boss, man. That's between you and him, okay? But they lose their jobs because they can't bond out, okay? Because of something they don't know, suspended driver's license. You know, we move and we use different addresses and things, and the mail don't catch up with us. I know some of us don't do what we're supposed to do, but still, it's not a crime. But you've been notified, but you haven't gotten a notice, but now you're getting arrested because your license suspended because you didn't swap insurance, or you did. You know, come on, that's not what you put people in jail for. Let them know what's going on. So that's all I'm saying when it comes to certain things, certain crimes. We got to have a human side about ourselves.
I got another follow-up question for you too, Mr. Pollock. What is the biggest need of the Sheriff's Department now, and what would you do to fill that need?
One of the biggest needs that I see outside looking in the moment with the Sheriff's Office is leadership. They do not have the leadership that's passing this type of message down to the troops. See, in order to lead, number one, you got to have the experience. You can't come from a small department being a sergeant or a deputy and say the next day you want to be a sheriff. A sheriff is not a job for on the training. I mean, you know, for on the job training, you know, I'm sorry, let me say that. You got to have some working knowledge of budgets when you're dealing with different cities. The sheriff's office deals with about 15 different cities. So therefore you got different commissioners, different mayors, city manager. Everybody's different. Everybody is unique. You got to be flexible and know how to deal with this. You got to have some experience, you know, when you're dealing with budgets. You got to have some experience, you know, with personnel, fire rescue. Okay, you got the jails, you got the courthouse, you got parole and probation. This is a large public safety agency where you have to have some type of working experience and knowledge, not somebody who's been on for 6, 8, 10 years, or I just say, hey, I want to be sheriff. You know, you'll never make it that way. You'll fail. And you also have to have the right team around you, you know, that's willing to tell you what's wrong, and you have to accept what's wrong and make the necessary changes. And you have to take responsibility. That's one thing that I will always do. I will take responsibility for every man and woman that works in that agency because they work under my guidance. And you have to own up to it and let the public know, listen, we're not perfect. We made a mistake, but we're gonna get it right. But you gotta make the changes. And you gotta be honest about it. And you have to lead by, by example, you know, for your employees. See, if your employees believe in you, then that's 90% of the job, okay? But if they doubt you as a leader and you don't lead by example, see, the leader has to have high standards himself, you know? And then once you establish that, then everybody else will see and they'll fall in line. Everything is based upon the leadership. And I find that to be so true in law enforcement. With all my years spent in law enforcement, the first line supervisor was so important, the sergeant. And the reason why you say why, because the men and women that work under him will only do what he allows them to do. And you know, when you have some good sergeants and you know, when you have some sergeants that wasn't gonna let you get away with anything, everything had to be right. Every T had to be crossed, every I had to be dotted. So if you made a complaint on a deputy, you know that sergeant's gonna look into it, not a sergeant who's just gonna blow it off and go, yeah, okay? So the employees know what they can get away with and what they can't, is what I'm saying, based on the supervision. So when you let people know that you have a zero tolerance for this type of behavior, they're gonna get it right because they got a lot to lose when you're talking about your job, your pension, and your careers and all.
Okay.
You're absolutely right.
Daryl?
You participated in a candidate forum last week with all of the candidates that's running for sheriff. And Sheriff Tony mentioned that there were only 230 Black deputies out of 1,500. And if that number is true and accurate, it's shameful. We need more people that look like you and me and my brother. We need more people that look like us out in our neighborhoods. And what will you do to correct that if you're elected sheriff?
One of the things that I would do, first of all, I think that his numbers was inaccurate. I think, first of all, it's more than 1,500 deputies, you know, so that's what I'm saying, you know, about that. But that number has never gotten up to where it should be. I was never in a position where I could do that because, you know, when I came up, you know, through this, when I was there, I was only responsible for the law enforcement part. We had another colonel who was responsible for personnel and recruitment and all. One of the things, you know, you have to do is, you know, that I would do is I would change the way that they're recruiting. You have Atlanta, Georgia, PD coming to South Florida. So you all don't even know about this. Atlanta, Georgia, PD comes to South Florida yearly and recruit our folks out of Broward County. And they do well. They keep coming back each and every year. And people are applying for jobs up there. There's something wrong. Okay, we got almost 2 million people living in Broward County, and we can't find 100 men and women that want to be law enforcement officers. We're doing something wrong, you know? Right. And you got to get the right people, you know, to put in place. And Tony has not done the right thing. The guy's been there for a year. He just doesn't have it. He doesn't have the experience or the knowledge. You know, that's the problem.
Right.
And that's where, he's failed at.
Right.
Right. So, and it all starts, with your recruitment. Right. And in the jail, it's the same thing. See, what they do is, right, what they used to do is when, when I was employed, they would always hire minorities and put you in the jail. Okay. And then you had to work your way out of the jail to get into the law enforcement, realm of things.
Why is that? Why is that, Mr. Pollock?
Listen, when it's the people that are in office, and it starts with the sheriffs during those time periods, okay? And it's been every sheriff that way. I used to sit on the interview panel, okay, as a sergeant and as a deputy back in the days, and they would say, "Well, you failed the interview for law enforcement, but we'll hire you as a deputy for the jail." I'm going, wow. Okay. Then they would say you can go in there for a year and then you can come back out. But it was always tough for minority deputies to come out of the jail, once they got in there. But it all starts with the sheriffs. The sheriffs have to make a commitment. All of them have did that, from Scott Israel to Gregory Tony to every sheriff before them have always done that. And I just said that's something I would never, ever do in my career. Right. Okay. I mean, you just got to put your foot down. Okay. Right.
So you think more emphasis should be on the human resource department and recruiting of minorities, or
Absolutely, sir. And you got to hold people accountable. Okay. Okay. And with me being sheriff, it's going to be 50-50. I'm going to demand that. First of all, I think HR, everything starts with them. You just can't take people and just put them in HR and say you run HR. You got to hire professionals to run HR. And you got to hire people that have a passion that want to be in recruitment. See, if I'm looking for minorities, I don't need to go to Georgia. I don't need to go to Alabama. We got so many schools here with Deerfield High School, Ely, I can go on and on.
And they used to do that back in the days, Mr. Pollock. They used to come to the high school and they used to recruit us right out of high school during that time. And I don't know if that occurs.
They don't do none of that anymore, sir. Everybody want to go everybody want to take a free trip, right, and fly out of town, and right, and they doing it now. Okay, there's no reason for us to really leave Brown County, in my opinion, because there's too much talent here. Okay, I should be fighting for somebody not to go to a local agency that want to come to the Broward Sheriff's Office. Because if I got the right recruiter there, the right people in place, they are going to sell our agency. And people are going to want to come to our agency. But it all starts too with our young kids, our Explorer programs, our firefighters program. We got to get these kids young when they're 14 and 15 years old, get them excited if they want to get into that career. Every district in the Broward Sheriff's Office should have an Explorer program. They should have a junior firefighter program that these kids can start early. And we need to go back to these schools, to these high schools in 10th grade and talk about our careers. And that's what we used to do back in the days. Right. But we never see firefighters going.
Did we lose him?
Yeah, he froze up. Mr. Pollock. Yeah, I think we might have lost him.
Oh, he's still on. We'll give him a few seconds. Hopefully it'll
I think we lost him. Looked
Well,
like his.
you could click the link again and I could let him back in the room. So while we're waiting, we were talking to Alvin Pollock. He's a candidate for sheriff here in Broward County, Florida. And we were talking to him, I guess, before he lost his connection here on the Adams Brothers podcast. And we'll see if he tries to join the room again. Maybe he lost his internet connection or something. That's things like that happen, you know.
Yeah, this is live.
This is a live interview right now, so we'll just give him a few minutes to see if he comes back, joins the room again. And then we'll let him back in and we'll let him finish his statement. And
That was very interesting what he was saying about the recruiting part. It was very interesting that he dropped some good knowledge on us just now.
Yeah. And he gave us some good examples about when he was a regular deputy patrolling the streets of Broward County. And he said that he heard the white officers use the N-word, which we all know what that word is. And, you know, the way that they tried to cover it up, you know, once he heard them. Me personally, I would have went and reported them. And I know he said you didn't have the avenues back then that you have now, but I would have. I would have lost my job. Let me just say that. I would have lost my job, and but I would have reported them. Absolutely.
Yeah, like absolutely. He said, during that time, he didn't have no one he can go air his grievances out to. So they would have tried to blackball him. They would have fired him and then tried to blackball him from going to any other department. So I understand exactly what he was saying during that time. You know, we all worked at places where that's the first thing, especially the city of Deerfield. If you complain, we already know how that goes. They will try to put you on a blackball list, and they'll get a group of employees to work with them in trying to get you out of there. So I know exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah. So we'll give Alvin Pollock a few more minutes, you know, we only had a couple more questions to ask him anyways. If he doesn't come back on, I know we do know he's on a time schedule, and he has other interviews to do. And if we don't get him back on today, we will invite him back again to finish up his interview. We want to give him a fair opportunity, just like we gave everybody else. And we're going to continue to give everybody in the future that same opportunity to tell the people of Broward County why we should elect them sheriff of Broward County. And our interviews aren't over. We have other candidates that we're going to be interviewing. So just stay tuned to the Adams Brothers podcast. We have some very, very exciting stuff that we're going to be bringing to you. And we just know that you're going to keep supporting us. And we're going to keep bringing you that knowledge that you're looking for. And if you're not, if you don't know, then that's our job. We're here to get that knowledge to you. So we'll give him a minute or so, and if he doesn't come back on, maybe he's rebooting his computer. If he doesn't come back on, we'll go ahead and we'll end this, and we'll invite him back at a later date, and we'll finish the interview. So we'll give him another minute.
Problems. He said he's having Wi-Fi problems. So we'll give him a few more minutes to see if he can reboot. But we're going to have some very interesting guests in the near future. We're going to be talking about a variety of topics, not just politics. We're going to delve into a whole lot. So everyone definitely want to stay tuned. We're going to be talking about the election. We're going to be talking about the ADOS, FBA movement. We're going to be talking to a lot of interesting guests from around the country soon. So we definitely ask everyone to stay tuned.
And we want to thank our viewers. You guys have been magnificent. You guys have supported us, and you continue to support us, and we want to thank you. For everybody that's supported us, help us start up from the ground. You know who you are. We'll be addressing you all in the future. Even the ones that didn't want to help us, hey, it's still all good. We're here, and we're going to keep continuing to bring the people what they're looking for, and that's the knowledge and to help educate them and to keep them informed. That's our goal here with the Adams Brothers podcast.
Definitely, definitely. We're going to be bringing engaging conversation, and we're going to be holding people accountable. The days of just coming for the Black vote without anything is over. Those days are gone. We are the new Black media.
Absolutely. So, you know, again, we're going to, we have some stuff coming up that you're going to love. There's going to be some accountability. Some people may not like it, but hey, that's part of what we do is holding public officials accountable. If you're being paid by the taxpayers' dollar, then you should be held accountable. And that's what we intend to do, and that is exactly what we are going to do. We're going to hold some people accountable. And here's Mr. Pollock coming back in again, okay? We're going to let him back in. I think he's still having a little bit. Oh, here he is.
Josh.
He's trying to. He has to turn his video on. Send him a message, Wayne, and tell him to turn his video on. Oh, there he is. He should be joining us momentarily.
Okay.
Ah, there he is. Hey, we stayed here. We knew you would come back. That's what you call perseverance right there.
That's right. We were having good conversation with you, and you're dropping some real knowledge on us.
Turn your audio on. Turn your audio on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you go. We can hear you now.
I apologize. I had a power surge.
Hey, those things happen. We just kept talking, and we knew you would come back. You know, you can't keep a good man down long.
And I tried to text you, and then my Wi-Fi didn't want to work on my phone. It was just a man. I'm going, oh God.
Well, those things happen. Those things happen.
But getting back to what you were saying, if Tony is saying this, being a Black sheriff, to me, he failed. Okay, because he's been in office for more than a year now. Make those necessary changes. I understand your command, but how about the first line people that are on the streets every day? That's what people see. When the last time an undersheriff or a major went out and knocked on somebody's door or answered somebody's calls? They don't do that. You know, that's very rare. We need to have the boots on the ground, so to speak. And my plan is I am going to get every African-American that's working in jail an opportunity to go to the road. That's my first choice, okay? And the staff, if that's what they want, okay? Right. So,
do you think the standards are very high or biased towards African-Americans in the academy?
The academy, let me say this. It's been a long time since I've been in the academy now, so that's been over 30 plus years ago. I think that we can put more African-American instructors out there. I believe in that. I mean, we've never had that many at the academy to be advisors. And what I mean by that is represent police departments, from different agencies, okay? So I would love to see more African-American instructors out there during the police academy time, to interact, with everyone. Because I've seen the problems out there, and I've been told about problems that, that cadets have, and they had no one really, to go talk to, someone, like them that they can relate from, to, because a lot of times just because you're in the academy doesn't mean that you won't have some situations at home.
Right.
It can be a loved one that just passed away, or some type of an illness that's going to affect you. Child care issues, a lot of things come to play when you're in that academy for 6 months and you're the man of the household. So, but you really need somebody who can understand you sometime, and who can talk to you, and who can mentor you also through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know my brother Daryl's son applied a few times, and I know he's a very smart young man, and I would think he would make a great deputy. And I don't know, but he didn't get hired. I don't know all the circumstances, but I think he would have made an excellent deputy here in Broward County.
Right. See, again, there are certain civilians that are making these decisions, and it shouldn't be that way. I think that if you're going to be hired by a law enforcement entity, it should be a panel of law enforcement officers. If you're going for detention, it should be detention that makes those decisions, from their command structure, should be the ones making those decisions, because law enforcement don't know what detention do per se. We have an idea, but we don't have the inner workings of. Same thing with fire. You're asking me to sit on a panel to hire a firefighter that I know nothing about the job, except. So that's why you got to have the profession from those divisions and those departments, to sit there and make those type of decisions. But what I would tell him to do is reapply. Don't give up, okay? And you should always tell a person why. What is wrong with telling a person why they fail? So, and give them that opportunity, because it could be a simple mistake. I've known people that failed because they say they had traffic tickets. It wasn't them. What happened was, I'm driving your car, I get a red light camera ticket. Okay. Sometimes you don't even know about that for a while before it catches up. They blame that on you because you're the car owner. That has nothing to do with you.
Absolutely.
One of your relatives. So it's just little things like that, that again, we got to be able to find out why and allow that person, that opportunity. But see, a lot of African Americans don't get that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about training for a moment. Do you think 6 months is long enough for an officer to, 6 months in the academy is long enough to become a law enforcement officer? Because so many things happen in today's society, around the country, and every time we always hear about training, the officers need better training, better training, better training. Well, me personally, I think that the academy should be a year. If you ask me, there needs to be more training. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are the same as yours. I think that it should be increased. You got people that go to school for cosmetology, go to school longer than a police officer.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I'm being serious here. And you're talking about, again, depriving somebody of their rights, of their livelihood. They don't get as much in the academy. See, when I went through the academy, it was shorter than it is now, and they extended. But I think the academy should be extended, and it should be more training based on bias training. And also, when we talk about training, we got to have, scenario-based training, okay? It's okay to go to training and sit there and tell someone something, but until you act it out and go through those scenarios. See, with what's going on around the country, we have to incorporate those kind of scenarios into our training to see what our officers would do in a situation like a Mr. Brooks or a Mr. Floyd. What will you do in a situation like that? If somebody take your taser away from you? So we have to have those types of situation awareness training, But see, you got to remember now, the college run the academy. Okay, BSO don't run the academy. We have nothing to really do with it. except to put advisors out there, and they are regulated by the state of Florida, which is, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Right. But see, a lot of police departments now are starting their own police academy, like the city of Miami, Miami-Dade County. So therefore, they are incorporating what they folks need to be trained on. And see, I think personally, the age limit should go up also. I think you should be 21 to be a police officer and not the age of 19. We've had police officers come to BSO that couldn't even purchase their own guns. Their parents had to buy their guns and things for them, before they can get hired. So how you got a 19-year-old person coming to your house, knocking on your door, you having a dispute with your wife or a loved one or something, and they're gonna tell you about life issues with, when they just got out of high school,
right. 18
or 19, and never had those type of situations, see? So there's a lot of maturity going into law enforcement, that I think a person should have. Training is one, but also when they get out, we gotta change that culture, because it's been like this for so long. The veterans will tell you, I don't care what you learned in the academy, young man or young lady, forget about it. This is the way it is out here on the streets. Okay, and this is how we teach you. Oh, I've heard those conversations before. Forget everything you learned. This is the way we do it out here on the streets. Now, when I went through the academy 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we didn't have no type of community relations type training, none whatsoever. We didn't even know that word. Okay, when I went through back in the early 70s. But the key of it was I learned along the way. They taught us the warrior type mentality, us against them. That's all we knew. When I came out in 75, 77, that's all, we knew was it was us against the community. That was back then compared to what it is now. And like I said, all we did was shoot and learn how to protect ourselves. Another thing is we are so quick now to go to weapons instead of going what I consider defensive tactics, not to hurt someone, but just take control of them. See, we never used to be able to pull our guns. When you pull that gun, we was always taught you better use it. You don't pull it to point it at anybody unless you was going to use it. Right, unless you was going to use it. Now it's like taking, it's like you're taking money out of your pocket, paying. So no, seriously, whatever happens to going hands-on, and what I mean by that, I'm not talking about punch somebody. I'm just talking about take control of a person, restrain them properly, put them into custody without injuring them at all. Okay, now everything is a weapon. It's a non-lethal weapon. They're shooting you with the taser and all this other kind of situation. Don't get me wrong, there are situations that may come into play when you're talking about people with some mental health issues and they may have weapons and you need, to disarm them. I understand that. But when you're talking about people that don't have it, why are we using it? See, we're so quick to put your hands behind your back. You don't do it, I tase you, boom. I mean, it happens so fast, and it shouldn't be that way. We should still communicate and talk to you, okay?
Yeah, because I remember the first time I had a gun pulled on me by a police officer. I think I was like maybe 21 years old, if I'm exact, and I was gathering my stuff out of my truck to go in my apartment, and I was just gathering my stuff, and the next thing I knew, it was a deputy standing to my window with a Beretta 9mm 92FS. And I remember he thought I was breaking in my own vehicle. He snatched me out the vehicle, put the gun to my head. I'll never forget that, the longest day I live. And there was another officer rode by, saw him, and told him, that guy lives right there in the apartment. I speak to him almost every night coming out. And then, the first thing he tried to do was try to joke about having a bill with me. And I told him I didn't want to hear that, and I angrily grabbed my stuff and went in the house, and even when I made a complaint about him the next day, I come to find out the guy had fired a gun at a city employee probably around 1988.
Wow.
He was out jogging, a white jogger, and he saw her and he fired a gun. And so he was a walking time bomb, and they had fired him, and somehow or another he got his job back at that time. he ended up getting his job back.
Well, see, here you go again, the way you explained to me, there's no need to pull a gun. You didn't have a weapon. All you was doing was grabbing stuff. So your hands are full. Where's the gun? Where's the weapon? Okay.
I did have a gun in my truck, but it wasn't nowhere nearby.
But it wasn't with you though at the time. That's
right.
What I'm saying.
And he should have just came and asked.
Right. Excuse me, sir. How are you? First of all, how you doing? I mean, come on. I'm just saying, most people, even though you're that close on them, if I'm a real burglar, I'm gonna run away from you. I'm gonna make you chase me. I'm gonna make you earn it. So, but you stood there. Come on. All right.
Yeah. And I think they need to work on de-escalation.
Right.
You're
definitely right.
In Broward County, I think that needs to be an essential part of training, de-escalation of problems. I notice a lot on videos that I see now. The officer comes up and people be screaming and hollering, and the officer all of a sudden, instead of just like have a good day and walk away, it's like it's almost like they want to escalate the problem, and the next thing you know, they throw the person down on the ground, and then you got the crowd of people hollering and screaming, and it's like it's something that could have been dealt with.
It's all unnecessary, and a lot of times what we have to do is, if you're the officer on the scene, it's your call. You're the primary. You have to take control of it. You don't let a backup guy come up and take over, because sometimes those guys can come and stir the pot. We used to say. Okay, some guys I never used to want on my team because they would make the situation worse than what it is, And you know who they are, who just come in and just get people riled up, for no apparent reason. Okay, so but those are things that we have to start stepping up to the plate with moving forward. What we have to do is, as an agency, when officers are wrong, when deputies are wrong, we have to call them out at it. You really have to do it. There's no more being silent, okay? Because being silent is going to cause you to lose your job, okay? Especially if something terribly happened and something goes wrong, okay? And everybody should be held accountable for that. I mean, seriously accountable. And I can honestly say that over 99% of the officers come to work every day to do the right thing in life, and that's to help people that are in distress and do what they need to do, to make our county a safer county and a better place. But you're always going to have that little percentage of folks that are going to do wrong no matter what. But we got to go after them. We got to go after them. And as a leader, you got to set the tone for the agency. Once you set that tone that everybody know, you cross that line, then this is the price that you're going to pay. Okay, some people make mistakes from the heart. I can understand that. But just to go out and intentionally do things, no, that's wrong.
Yes.
And one thing I say, if you see, one thing I learned early on, we cannot, and I'm gonna keep saying this in life, we cannot arrest ourselves out of these situations.
That's right.
And okay, we have to learn how to work with the people in the community. Okay, kids, listen, we was kids. We all made mistakes. We drag raced. We did some stupid things as kids, okay?
Yes, we did.
So when I see kids doing things now, I can relate to that, but I talk to them. I don't go after them and try and make life hard for them, write them 10 tickets and all this crazy stuff. I talk to them and I talk to the parents. I think the parents need to know. Okay, Many times I've stopped kids for 80, 90 miles an hour driving on I-95 or the turnpike. What I do is I call the parents to let them know, and they thank you for it. Okay, and you let them know I'm sending them on their way, but you need to know how your kids behave. I mean, they wasn't rude or anything, but these parents still need to know. And once I make that phone call, to me, that's better than a ticket.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're going to deal with them. A responsible parent, will deal with them. And parents like that, when you let them know what's going on, with their child and all. So,
okay, we're gonna let you make the final statement. So, look into the camera and talk directly to the people of Broward County, and tell us why we should elect you sheriff of Broward County.
Number one, my name is Al Pollock. I've been a resident of Broward County for more than 40 years. My kids went to public schools here in Broward County. My wife grew up here in Broward County. She retired as an assistant police chief with the Broward County School Board. We love Broward County. This community has been very good to me. I've worked throughout this entire county in every community that you can imagine. I've had some type of work that I've done in those different communities. Each community is unique and different. They are all good communities, but they are different problems and different issues that you have to deal with. You can't go in thinking that you know everything. You really need to listen to the people and talk to the people. They will tell you what their problems are, and it's our job, to resolve those issues. That's one thing that I would do. I'm honest, my integrity, and that's something that they'll never ever, come into play or challenge. I have the knowledge of this county and this agency. I spent more than 35 years with the Broward Sheriff's Office. I know most of all the employees. I know the inner workings of this county, the different cities. So I would be honored to have your vote come August 18th as your sheriff of Broward County, your first elected Black sheriff with the experience and the knowledge. And I will turn this county around. I will rebuild morale. I will make sure the Broward Sheriff's Office obtain their accreditations on a state level, the national level. I will make it back what it used to be, one top-notch, prominent agency that was well recognized throughout this nation. All right, unlike what it is now, where the men and women don't feel like putting that uniform on, don't feel like coming to work because of a leader that has problems. And when you got a leader that's got problems, how can you expect the men and women to carry on throughout the day? And if you don't treat the men and women right within the agency, that's what reflects out upon the streets. Right. It just passes on, out into our communities. And that's one thing that I will do differently. I will make sure that the men and women are taken care of, within the agency. That's why I was supported by the fire, rescue, and firefighters of Broward County. That's why I was supported by the supervisors and the police officers, deputy sheriff, within the agency. I was supported by the Fraternal Order of Police, who represent multiple agencies throughout this county, and also the Deputy Sheriff Association, because they believe in me that I can bring this agency back to one prominent agency that it used to be, and recognize where we treated everybody righteous. Everybody was treated the same. And that's one thing that I would definitely do, that spend money in our minority communities to make sure that our kids get an equal opportunity to the criminal justice system other than handcuffs. I'm talking about through jobs, internships, summer programs. There's a program that I want to do every summer. I want to teach our kids how to swim in Broward County. We've had too many deaths in Broward County from kids drowning, and it's a free program. All we have to do, the money is there. Everybody talk about money. Broward Sheriff's Office have money. They give money back every year to the county, okay? It's the way that we implement our resources. We don't need to buy any more guns. We got plenty of guns, okay? We don't need any more military type equipment. Okay? That's not what I'm going in there for. We need to get back to the basics of community policing, not talking about it, but doing it, getting out of those cars, not driving down the street at 40 miles an hour through a neighborhood, okay, that they don't even see you. We will be going back to community meetings on a weekly basis. We want to be a part of the community when they have events. We want to be invited there. I want the fire department to be there. I want them to come out and tell you about the wonderful things that they got going. We want to teach our people CPR free of charge, because your tax dollars already paid for this. There are so many programs that we can offer our residents and community that they are lacking. If you didn't know, if you have a business, all you got to do is call the Broward Sheriff's Office. They'll come out and do a survey for you for free and tell you what you need to do to enhance the security of your business. If you go on vacation, did you know that a deputy will come by your house and check on your house. And if something go wrong, if you leave an emergency number, which you should, they will call you and let you know what's going on. Do this car belong in your driveway? These are things that we offer for free of service, but certain communities don't get it because they never tell you about it. I want to make it equal for everybody. I'm going to tell you about all the programs that we have and let you pick and choose what you want to, take a part of. And I want to get the Citizens Police Academy back going. It was stopped under Israel administration. I want to bring that back. And you didn't have to come down to BSO to go through the police academy. We came to your neighborhood. If you had a site that we identified, like a church or a community center, we will come there once a week and put on, what we call a citizen academy, where we teach you everything about law enforcement. And you get to ride with the deputies and all. We had the fire department, we had corrections, we had homicide, we had everybody come in and tell you about what we do. And at the end of the process, you was awarded a certificate, for graduating from it. And we always welcome you to come back and ride with us. Just come out, ride with the deputy for 3 or 4 hours so you can get to see what's going on. We want you to be able to go by your local fire department, take your kids by there on a tour. This is what we want. We don't want you driving by. Those are your tax dollars, and never stopping by to get to know who the firefighters are at the station. When I grew up, we knew the firefighters at our station in our neighborhood. We used to go by there as little kids, because we was curious, number one, and the doors used to always be open. So we would go by and they would talk to us, and we'll just hang around. But this is what I'm saying. I want our community to be able to interact with our public safety, responders, our first responders. And again, I'm going to incorporate detention as well. I don't want to leave them out. They need to get out in the community and interact as well. I mean, they're part of the system also. But these are things that I have a plan for, that I plan on implementing, and I will make them happen. And I will recruit people from the community. I don't need to go out of town. I can guarantee you, I can get 50 people in the next 30 days that want to be sheriff deputies. Now, they may not hire them, but I would, because I know that they're good people. People make mistakes in life. Let's give them another chance. Okay? Right. And we got, communications. Okay? You got a sheriff that made a mistake. That's the sheriff today. Okay? So how can we say that we don't want to give a person who may have a couple of traffic tickets a right to become a sheriff deputy or someone in communications? Their BSO have many jobs, and there's no way that that we shouldn't get all these resources from within our community, from all our high schools that graduate every year. Because not everybody's going to go to college. We encourage them to, but college is not for everybody. So they can come over and get a law enforcement job, and we pay for them to go to college. We help subsidize them, to go to a state college. Everybody don't know that. They don't talk about these kinds of things, the training. So the citizens don't realize that they have a right. If you live in any city, you can go to that district, fill out a form, what we call a waiver, that you can ride with a police officer just to see what we do. There's nothing wrong with that. See, I want to encourage people to get involved, to get to see it. And for you two guys, I want you to come to our training one day.
We will.
I want you to go through the scenarios that we put officers through, to shoot and don't shoot and all this kind of good stuff, to see how we do things. That's how we get to interact, with our community, and they can get a better understanding of what we do. Okay. And also, let's talk to them about policy changes. See, we're in the 21st century now. We don't know everything. We still operate in the 19th century. Okay. I'm just being honest. In law enforcement, things have changed. Social media have changed this whole world of ours, we live in, especially with what we are doing here now. So we should be able to make some necessary changes, for our community, in the hiring, the use of force, training. So there's so much work that we can do, but we can't stop doing it. We got to be aggressively moving forward, not just taking little baby steps, because with that said, we ain't gonna get nothing done. We'll be talking about this another 4 years from now. you know. And I don't think it take long to do anything. I'm putting people on a timeline, okay, and deadlines, because you can't go into the job and wait 3 and 4 more years and say, oh, raise the flag, but I'm doing this and I'm doing that. People don't want to hear that anymore. They're tired. Really, I'm tired. Let's just get the job done. It doesn't take that long to implement programs. You shouldn't have to tell deputies to park and walk and make it mandatory that they park a car, get out, park, walk, and talk. And that's a policy at BSO. We've been doing this since the 70s, since I got in law enforcement. And I did a better job then than what they're doing now, because I got to know everybody where I worked at. I got out, I talked to those men at those stores and those women at those stores. I went and introduced myself to the shop owners and all, and the store owners, that I was their deputy and I'm gonna be in the neighborhood, so if anything you need. It was an honor because they treated me so well wherever I went. I never had any problems. I never had any problems whether it was 30 or 40 people in a big fight among kids. It's the way you treat people and the way you talk to them. And to earn respect, you have to give respect. And that's one of the things that we have to do when we approach minority folks. We have to respect them. Don't assume. Just respect, no matter who the person is. I've learned that in my career early on. And I watch judges, because I used to be in charge of the court system. Judges give people who are on trial respect. They say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, or whatever to them. I mean, they do it. They can give you 100 years, but they still respect you in that process, is what I'm saying. You know, they don't take away your dignity, okay? And that's something that I hear from a lot of Black men and minorities. It's the way that they're being treated. Just treat them with respect and with decency. And that's all. Listen, I've had some of the roughest people that I pulled over before in life, and they want to fuss you out. But at the end of the day, before it's all over with, we're laughing and we're joking, okay? Because of the way you communicate to them. I never escalated myself to their level. And that's the problem sometimes. You know, we, again, just like, you know, your brother said, we got to de-escalate constantly. That's what it's about. And I used to tell kids this when I spoke with them on the weekends. I tell them what to do in those situations. Don't, as a police officer, I can take you to jail at any time. And I used to do scenarios with them, and they go, well, how? I said, let me tell you right quick. I said, I stop you on a traffic stop, right? And you know you're not speeding. And I say, well, I'm stopping you for speeding. You're gonna go, you're gonna start arguing with me, which I know you wasn't speeding, but then I walk up to you, I get up in your face, and if you touch me, that's battery. So see, little things can lead to anything. So you can talk a person into it, okay? And I said, don't do that. Remain calm. Remember the officer's name if you could, the traffic stop location, the time, the date, because this is so important when you have to make a complaint later on in life. And I said, don't let people talk you into, I see some folks can get talked into being arrested. All you gotta do is just be quiet, don't say nothing. But they keep coming after you to get you to say something or do something that you don't wanna do. And all they want you to do is cross that threshold and they got you, okay? And it's nothing, but still it's on your record and that's wrong. As you know, it's what I'm saying. That doesn't make it right in life, but these are the things that can happen. And I've told my kids that growing up, you know, when they was younger, you know, how to respond. But we as Blacks in this country, as African American, we shouldn't have to have these kind of conversations in the 21st century. Seriously. But we still do. I'm just being honest. You know, your parents got to tell you how to act when you get stopped by the police. Come on. Okay, this is something in the 16th century. Okay, when it was enforcing all those crazy laws, the Jim Crow laws and all that craziness, you know, where you couldn't go on the beach and you couldn't cross the tracks at night and all that. Those days are over. But we still have to engage. We still have to hold our law enforcement people accountable. I want you to hold me accountable as the sheriff of Broward County because I take full responsibility. I'm not going to pass the buck off to anybody else. It stops with me. I take ownership of everything from the day that I'm sworn in. It's mine.
Okay, there you have it. Alvin Pollock. Some people call him Al. He's running for sheriff of Broward County. Sir, thank you so much for stopping by the Adams Brothers podcast. You're welcome to come back and talk to us anytime you want. If you get elected sheriff, please don't forget about us. Come back and talk to us. And we enjoy talking to you. And we'd like to see you back here on the Adams Brothers podcast. And
enjoy talking to you because I'm gonna need your help. You know, that recruitment to get the messages out for me.
Oh, absolutely. We'll be right here to help you. So
I need you to serve on some of those committees.
Absolutely. That's
You
you
can let us.
have to
So
be
don't tell
involved.
me no now because I'm coming after you. Okay?
You can absolutely. We will be here.
All right. Thank you all so much, and I really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time and good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. God
Good
bless.
job.
Have
All
a
right.
good evening.
Bye-bye.